Hello, dear listeners. I'm excited to share the first part of this new short story with Lex and Mary with you as a bonus episode. Lex and Mary are characters of the story The Taste of a Smile, which is partly available on this free feed, but the rest of the story is an exclusive for the theater members. But many of you do know Lex and Mary. You don't have to know the characters to enjoy this holiday special, I think. I created this 70-minute extra scene, yes, 70 minutes, that's like 5 episodes in one, as a Bells and Whistles theater exclusive. I hope you enjoy the festive spirit of the story, and if you would like to listen to part 2, well, I have some news after this bonus. Let's talk about that at the end of this first part of Let It Slow. Welcome to the Bells and Whistles Theater. This is Let It Slow. Mary covered her face. My eyes hurt, she muttered. Lex frowned. We should take a break. I know, Mary sighed. But I have so much to do. I don't know why, but this holiday season just feels extra important. I keep coming up with last-minute things I want to do. I really want these holidays to be special for everyone. Lex got up and stepped behind Mary, rubbing her shoulders. Let's go out for dinner and forget about work for a while. We can take a walk afterward and enjoy the lights, you know? We need to take a break now and then. Mary groaned and rested her head against Lex's belly. We can't. You know that. Surely we can make an exception, Lex asked with a pout. We can use the Joker card we gave ourselves? Not this early in the month, Mary chuckled. We just started 5 days ago. You're right, Lex sighed reluctantly. I guess I'll go make a deposit into the charity box. Mary laughed. Yes. We'll be able to make a sizable donation by the end of the month. I know, Lex smiled, feeling a little sheepish. This is harder than I thought. I would have definitely gone out for dinner if you had agreed to it. It's challenging for me, too, Mary said, smiling back. That's why I suggested we do this. Lex nodded in agreement. Yeah, we really do go out for dinner way too often. Who doesn't around here? Mary winked. Grinning, Lex was about to agree when she realized there were plenty of people she worked with who couldn't afford to go out to eat. She frowned at the thought. It feels good to use that money for something else, Mary said. Yes, it certainly does, Lex responded with a serious nod. What do you think? $60? Mary took a deep breath and then smiled guiltily. Make it $80. We probably would have gotten dessert. We definitely would have, Lex agreed, flexing her fingers. Do you mind waiting until after my massage? Mary giggled. That's just a sneaky way to keep me going, Lex teased, winking as she slipped her hands under Mary's sweater. I'll give you a tip if you keep going like that, Mary groaned. All right, I'll put $100 into the charity box. Mary moaned with contentment, her eyes closed. Lex gazed at her tenderly, feeling a love she never thought possible. She couldn't remember ever being happier, despite the state of the world. We're so fortunate, she whispered. We really are, Mary whispered back. Suddenly, Mary's laptop chimed loudly, interrupting their moment. She opened her eyes and frowned. I could have sworn I turned off all my notifications. Just ignore it, Lex said, focusing on a knot in Mary's left shoulder. Mary winced and shut her eyes again. But the laptop continued to chime, becoming even louder. Lex chuckled at the festive sound. Only Mary would set her email notifications to sound like holiday bells. I don't know what that is, Mary said, sitting up straighter. I'm sure I turned off the sound. She woke up her screen. What is this? Mary mumbled as she clicked on something. Lex suppressed her annoyance. Another wonderful moment together interrupted by work. But she knew she was just as guilty of allowing it to happen as Mary. I think someone spammed or hacked me, Mary said. Lex focused on the computer. A pop-up had taken over most of Mary's screen, with jingling bells and dancing snowflakes in the corners. That's definitely not normal, she commented, reaching for Mary's trackpad. Can you close it? Let me read it first, Mary laughed. But what if... Lex worried, but was interrupted by Mary. Santa needs your help, Mary read aloud, giggling. Will you come and help her? Her? Lex asked in surprise, momentarily distracted from cybersecurity concerns. Yeah, it says her, Mary continued. Weird, right? You can click yes or no. Don't click on anything, Lex warned, but Mary's fingers were already directing the mouse toward the buttons. I want to know what this is about, Mary said excitedly. I know IT will kill me, but... She clicked on the large, glittering yes button. Initially, nothing happened, causing Lex to worry even more. Was there a virus being downloaded in the background? Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, making everything rustle. Before Lex could comment on it, fluffy snowflakes filled the air around them. What is happening? Mary and Lex yelled simultaneously. In an instant, everything around them transformed into a massive blur of red and green. Acting quickly, Lex grabbed Mary's arm and pulled her towards herself as they were sucked into a bright tunnel before them. Lex wanted to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Instead, her surroundings filled with holiday tunes and twinkling lights, filling her chest with an overwhelming sense of holiday spirit. And suddenly, they were back in a living room, both gasping for air as they sat on a plush couch. It wasn't their living room, or their couch. Immediately, Lex turned to Mary to check if she was all right, but Mary's mouth hung open and her eyes were fixated on something. Grandma? Lex followed Mary's gaze and saw Elsa standing by a grand fireplace, a radiant smile on her face. My darlings, Lex blinked. She blinked again, trying to process what she was seeing. It really was Elsa standing in front of her. Could it be possible? Or was this some kind of strange hallucination? Had she passed out and was now experiencing a bizarre holiday-themed near-death experience? I'm so glad you could make it, Elsa said, walking over to the comfortable chair by the fireplace. I told Nicholas that you two were just what he needed. Lex and Mary exchanged a bewildered look. Is this real? Mary asked, tilting her head in confusion. It is, Elsa reassured them. But how? Lex replied, still trying to make sense of the situation. The living room was a scene straight out of a holiday movie. The fireplace roared with warmth, casting dancing shadows across the room. The plush couches were adorned with soft blankets and festive throw pillows, and in the corner stood a magnificent Christmas tree, adorned with twinkling lights and shimmering ornaments. Did someone drug us? Mary questioned with wide eyes. I don't know, Lex responded, shaking her head. Maybe there was some kind of biological attack using hallucinogenic substances? Oh, for God's sake, Elsa sighed dramatically as she stood up. This is exactly why Nicholas is so... A loud bell sounded through the room, startling all three of them. Elsa covered her mouth and giggled. Oh, right, we're only supposed to speak kindly here. Here? Lex asked, looking down at her arm and wondering if she should pinch it. Elsa sat down next to Mary, placing her hand on Mary's knee. Mary froze in shock. Your hand, it's real, she gasped, taking her grandma's hand in her own. Of course it's real. Can we move on to the part where you accept you're at the North Pole so we can discuss why I brought you here? Elsa asked, a little impatient now. You are supposed to be on a cruise, Mary blurted out. You sent us pictures just a few days ago. Lex couldn't believe that's what Mary would ask first after hearing about the North Pole. And I was on a cruise, Elsa smiled. That's where I met Nicholas. Oh, it was so wonderful. We instantly felt a connection. Lex stared at Elsa in disbelief. Are you saying you met Santa? Elsa met her gaze. Just go with it for a bit, my dear, and you'll see it all makes sense, she said. None of this makes sense, Mary protested. Exactly, Lex agreed wholeheartedly. Nicholas did say you would have a hard time accepting this. Elsa sighed and shook her head. Lex scoffed. Seriously, Grandma, you can't expect us to... Her words trailed off as she realized how harsh she sounded. Okay, she started again. Where is this Nicholas? Elsa's face brightened. He's still on the cruise. I offered to take over while he gets some rest. Poor man. He's been so depressed about the state of the world. Mary gaped at her grandmother in disbelief. Lex tilted her head and looked up at the painted ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. After a moment, she frowned as she noticed the stars and planets, along with a depiction of Santa riding his sleigh. Finally, Mary asked slowly, Are you saying that Santa is taking a tropical cruise while we're here at the North Pole, taking over his job? Yes, Elsa exclaimed with excitement. You're finally on board. I'm not sure I understand, Mary whispered, looking at Lex in a panic. Lex decided she would need to compartmentalize in order to avoid becoming overwhelmed. First and foremost, it didn't matter if she was unconscious or not. The only way to regain control was by utilizing her mind in whatever way she was still capable of. There were several pressing issues at hand. Their unknown location, how they got here, and the startling discovery of Elsa being present as well. She would start with Elsa's presence. Elsa, do you remember anything about how you ended up here from the cruise ship? Lex asked, scanning the room. The room was so cozy. She briefly got distracted by the gifts under the tree in the corner. The smell of hot chocolate tickled her nostrils and made her stomach growl. Can we please focus on what we need to do, my darlings? Elsa interrupted. Time is of the essence. I thought you two were highly trained business professionals. And what exactly is it that you want us to do? Mary asked, throwing her hands up in frustration. Elsa clapped her hands in response. Alfie, open the screen. Suddenly, a voice spoke from an unknown location, once again startling Mary and Lex. Opening screen, it announced. Above the fireplace, a section of the wall slid open to reveal a large flat-screen TV. The screen lit up, displaying a cheerful countdown to December 25th. What the fuck? Lex chuckled. The loud bell rang again, causing Elsa to wave her annoyance at Lex. No cursing. Use kind words, Lex protested. But I understand, my dear, Elsa quickly interjected. Just go along with it for now. She rose from the couch and approached the screen. Let me share this presentation with you, and then you can decide if you believe me. A presentation? Lex asked, exchanging surprised glances with Mary. The elves helped me, Elsa beamed. I never thought I could do this, but here I am. Slide 1, please, declared Elsa, glancing over at the tree in the corner. Lex almost checked to see if there was an elf hiding there, but then quickly told herself not to. Why was she even tempted to check? None of this was real, right? Right? The screen now displayed a dramatic white title against a dark background. Operation Santa Burnout. Santa has burnout? Gasped Mary. Lex shot her a look, feeling like Mary was starting to believe in all of this. It felt like a line she didn't want to see crossed. Slide 2, please, Elsa said, pointing at Mary. Yes and no. He has burnout, but not like we do, Elsa continued. What does that mean? Asked Lex skeptically. As you can see, Elsa gestured at the screen. Many people around the world are very unhappy. Okay, Lex said, crossing her arms. This directly impacts Santa's physical and mental energy levels, explained Elsa, as if discussing one of her tea workshops rather than a fictional character's health. Hope and holiday spirit are also on the decline, Elsa continued, pointing at a graph on the slide. This makes Santa extra vulnerable to mental health issues. He can't even get out of bed in the morning. And when he disappears from view, holiday spirit declines even further in children, creating an exponential problem. So, he went on a tropical cruise? Mary asked, unable to hide her puzzlement. Elsa nodded enthusiastically. For rest and vitamin D. Lots of vitamin D. Lex briefly pictured Santa on the deck of a cruise ship, wearing some kind of Santa-themed bathing suit. But that wasn't enough, Elsa continued solemnly. He tried to come back, but immediately got sick and depressed again. It seems there is nothing he can do to get his energy back unless people start to believe in him again. Poor man. Lex and Mary exchanged another confused glance. Mary shrugged shyly, as if to say, let's go along with this for a bit. Slide 3, please. Lex refocused on the screen, shaking her head. These are all the measures Santa and the elves have taken in the last few years to improve happiness and hope, both of which are vital to keep the holiday spirit alive, Elsa explained. Lex had to squint to be able to read the small words on the long list. More puppies? She asked, unsure if she was reading correctly. Elsa sighed. Unfortunately, too many ended up in shelters. It was a bad idea. Lex winced. What the? She caught herself before saying another expletive aloud. More holiday lights? Mary read out loud. Yes. Elsa nodded hesitantly. Cities ended up with massive bills. Again, bad plan. A limited edition Santa Star Wars sweater? Lex asked, chuckling as she read another item from the list. Landfills, Elsa sighed. I immediately guessed those would end up in landfills, and sure enough. Well, this is depressing, Mary commented dryly, still scanning the list. Elsa pointed at her again. Exactly. It is very depressing indeed. Everything failed and created even more unhappiness and, frankly, a big mess. Santa feels awful about it and believes there's nothing he can do at this point. That's so sad, Mary said, leaning back on the couch. Please don't feel too sad, honey, Elsa whispered. It really impacts the elves. She glanced towards the Christmas tree. Slide 4, she added quickly. This new slide had a cheerier background. Lex wondered who had created this presentation. Was it really Elsa? Or the elves? She nearly facepalmed just considering the elves were real. Then again, she could not imagine Elsa creating this slideshow. Profile Crisis Manager? Mary read out loud. Wait, you're looking for a new manager? Elsa shook her head, smiling patiently. No, that position is already filled. When I met Nicholas, I told him I knew just the people he needs. So they stopped interviewing people. Apparently, they weren't getting any good candidates anyway. Do you mean you? Mary squeaked. You are the new manager? No, dear, I'm too old. I'm already tired from presenting these 4 slides. Wait, Lex stuttered. You don't mean us. Of course I mean you too, Elsa said, clapping her hands together. Mary, you always create such magical experiences at Leroy. Now you can use your talents for something truly important. Mary looked insulted for a second, but then shrugged in agreement. And Lexi, Elsa continued, walking up to Lex and cupping her cheeks. My sweet Lexi, you're miraculous with numbers and making everything run smoothly at the store. Lex blushed. What do you think, darling? Will you use that bright head of yours to truly help people instead of selling more chocolate? Lex frowned. You know you're not being kind, right? Why is that bell not ringing? You never told us you hate our job so much, Mary added, chuckling. Elsa let go of Lex's head and cupped her granddaughter's cheeks instead. I don't, my sweet girl. Of course I don't. But this is Christmas. Mary met Lex's widening eyes again. Lex was caught between total disbelief and a sense of wanting to make a difference in a whole new way. But surely, none of this... We're in, Mary said and jumped up. Wonderful, Elsa beamed, grabbing Mary's hand and reaching for Lex's. Lex took in a deep breath and looked at the Christmas tree in the corner of the room. She wanted to remind herself that this was all an illusion, but then she saw something move in the tree. It seemed like a tiny person with a pointed green hat perched atop their head. Who is that? She asked, shocked. They're shy, Elsa said and grabbed Lex's hand, pulling her to her feet. Leave them be. Read the description, dear, Elsa told her, pointing at the screen. Right, Lex muttered and tried to focus on the job description. You want us to analyze what is beyond our control and what we can do short-term to increase global happiness, hope, and holiday spirit? She read with growing alarm. Yes, exactly. Elsa nodded and squeezed Lex's hand. I figured you would be great at the analysis. She then turned to Mary. And I need you to come up with ideas to replace those dreadful experiments on that earlier list. Mary nodded. Yes. I would need to know what is going on first, though. I need Lex's data. Lex raised her hand. I don't have any data or any way to get that sort of data. But you do. I anticipated that you would need data. Let's get you to your workstations. Elsa gestured for them to follow her. Mary did so without hesitation, and Lex reluctantly walked after them. The plush carpet cushioned her steps, giving the illusion of walking on a cloud. The heavy-looking wooden door opened surprisingly without a squeak, and Elsa guided them into a long hallway. Lex's lips parted in shock as she took in the sights. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, adorned with colorful holiday lights and cheerful decorations that filled every inch of space. The air was filled with the sweet scent of gingerbread and pine. Against the opposite wall, a miniature train chugged along its two-way track, its whistle echoing through the hall as it passed by. This is so cool, Mary squeaked in delight. This can't be real, Lex gasped as another train passed by, packed with little gifts and candy. Solar power, Elsa smiled over her shoulder. All of it. Lex frowned. There's that much sun on the North Pole? Elsa shook her head, visibly amused at Lex being Lex, and pointed at another heavy door. We're here. How about you go first, Lexi? Hesitating, Lex reached for the lollipop swirl-themed doorknob. She thought of all the holiday movies she had seen over the years. She always thought the North Pole looked ridiculous. She was disappointed her imagination had copied the style without any form of restraint. Open it, Mary said excitedly. Fine, Lex chuckled and opened the door. Mary and Lex both gasped in shock. Don't just stand there, Elsa said, giving Lex a little push. Go inside. Lex closed her mouth and stepped into the luxurious room with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the stunning snowy New York City skyline. The other walls were adorned with an array of screens displaying Santa-themed screensavers. At the center of the room sat several sleek desks, each equipped with multiple screens for efficient workflow. Amidst all this modern technology, comfortable old-fashioned chairs added a touch of nostalgia to the otherwise futuristic atmosphere. Wait, we're home? We're still in New York City? Mary asked. I'm so confused. Not quite, Elsa said. She gestured at the two chairs. Make yourselves comfortable. We set this all up for you. Lex's eyes swept around the room again, taking in every detail. In the corner, a coffee maker stood next to a festive-looking machine adorned with red and green ribbons. A plate of freshly baked cookies sat invitingly on the table next to it. "Please, Lexi, hot chocolate and cookies have to wait," Elsa said and patted on one of the chairs. "Take a look at the data first." "Okay," Lex said, rubbing her forehead and stumbling toward the chair. "This view is amazing," Mary said, placing a hand on the window. "In what building are we?" "Doesn't matter, dear," Elsa said. "Just come and help Lexi, okay?" Lex sat down in the chair, and a wave of relaxation and happiness washed over her. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but then she gave in and leaned back with a happy sigh. "Holla happy chairs," Elsa grinned. "Unfortunately, they couldn't get the production sustainable on a massive scale. Plus, consumer feedback showed that people didn't like the style, which really hurt Santa's feelings." Lex looked up at Elsa. "How is this even possible?" she asked lazily. "I've never felt this good in my life." Her eyes drifted shut as she was tempted to take a nap. "Okay," Elsa giggled. "I think we need to switch these off." She groaned a little as she bent down and pushed a button on the chair. Lex's cloud of bliss slowly evaporated. She blinked a few times and then grinned up at Elsa. "I want one of these." "Hey, I'm not sure that's a good idea," Mary giggled. "It looks like you'd be napping all the time, but I do want to try these later." "Please, children," Elsa sighed. "Time is of the essence here. We only have a few weeks left until Christmas Eve." Lex forced herself to sit up and tap the keyboard resting on the desk. The screensaver with a jolly-looking Santa and hundreds of elves disappeared, and a dashboard appeared instead. Lex studied it for a while until her eyebrows shot up. "What is this?" she asked quietly, more to herself than to Elsa. "Global sentiment data from all tech companies, consumer data from all Fortune 500 companies, predictive data based on world leaders' emails, the analysis of all the failed Santa experiments, and, of course, the latest weather forecasts for Christmas Eve," Elsa explained confidently. Mary and Lex looked at her in astonishment. "They gave you all of this?" Mary asked and pointed at the screen. "Of course not," Elsa laughed. "The elves hacked their way into all their systems." Lex nodded slowly. "Of course they did." "I'm sure you can find your way around the data," Elsa said. "Please, we need anything that can help us understand what we can do to bring back some hope." "What can I do while Lex studies the data?" Mary asked her grandmother. "Maybe you can familiarize yourself with all the failed experiments, just so you know what doesn't work before you start brainstorming on what might actually work," Elsa said. "Okay, I can do that," Mary said, walking up to the other chair. She bent down, switched the holla happy effect off, and sat down. "No more distractions. Let's do this." "Thank you. If you need anything, or me, just ask your question out loud and the elves will act accordingly," Elsa said. "Do we ever get to see one of them?" Mary asked. "I told you, dear, they're shy." Elsa chuckled and headed for the door. Mary pouted. "Okay, I get it. We'll be waiting to hear from you two," Elsa said and closed the door behind her with a soft thud. Lex and Mary looked at each other again. "Are we dead?" Mary asked, pinching her arm. Grinning, Lex said, "I think we are." "Fuck," Mary smiled. Okay, that was part 1 of Let It Slow. But what happens next? Well, if you would like to find out, you can now become part of the Bells and Whistles Theater with a huge discount, just because it's Christmas, for the first month. In that month, you'll have access to the rest of this story, The Taste of a Smile, and all my other exclusive content on Patreon. You can, of course, easily cancel at any moment. You're not stuck. If you don't want to hang around after the first month, you don't have to. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/lesbianromantic and use the code LEX, LEX, in capitals at checkout to get your discount for the first month. This code expires on January 5th, by the way. So go to patreon.com/lesbianromantic and use the code LEX, LEX, for a huge discount on your first month of the Bells and Whistles Theater. I hope you enjoy the rest of Let It Slow. I hope you enjoy all the extra content on my Patreon page. And if you're not joining me there, then I hope you have enjoyed this part of the bonus episode, and that I will see you again for the next episode of Waking Up is Easy and all other episodes on this free public feed. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending time together, and we'll talk soon. Bye.